Europeans revolt and protest against the elite, tyranny, and increase in cost of living. European citizens in France, Germany, and other European Union countries are protesting en masse against the punctuality, while the wintering Greeks remain spectators of the developments. Accuracy Europeans, as we pointed out before when commenting on what's happening, the leaders of Europe are turning more and more furiously to the cannibalization of the European people themselves, heading towards, or the perhaps most critical winter of the post-war period. Europe's ruling elite, quote unquote, under the guise of taking defensive measures against energy precision, is launching an all-out attack on the popular classes, the people that is, an attack that hides under the cloak of emergency and has the sole purpose of strengthening and perpetuating the absolutism that was preloaded in the 2 years of the pandemic. European countries are facing more and more protests and strikes due to high energy prices and the rising cost of living. Soaring inflation has driven precision to unprecedented levels, and citizens are becoming ballast in the capitalist bulldozer that flattens households, businesses, incomes, freedoms, and rights. Europe is heading full speed towards the abyss of totalitarianism. Already in France, Germany, Britain, the Czech Republic, and Belgium, massive protests and strikes are taking place over rising energy prices and the cost of living, with governments responding only with violent repression, merciless wood and chemicals in the name of democracy on citizens who have the audacity to react to their methodological impoverishment. The same governments that accuse Russia of despotism and tyrannical power are turning Europe into a fossil of totalitarianism, a steel cog in the machine of the New World Order. It's a foregone conclusion that the people will bear the full burden of this transition to totalitarianism and will pay for it with hunger, energy poverty, and the encroachment of the last rites from what remains of the pandemic's dread rehearsal. And already on the brink of Third World War, the citizens are fully shouldering the costs of the weapons programs, the cost of energy, de-dependence from Russia, the cost of the profiteering of supply chains, generally the cost of suicidal measures taken by the masterminds, quote unquote, of Europe, fully aware that they are pushing the European people to absolute destruction. By tying the narrative of energy austerity together with the so-called green transition, we have the perfect alibi for a justified impoverishment of peoples. We have the preludes for the total enslavement of the lower strata as perceived by the ruling social Darwinists. Digital transformation, policing, state surveillance, mass manipulation under the guise of health, energy, and environmental threats, criminalization of free speech, restriction of movement, looting of private property are just some of the control policies that will be applied even more harshly in the future. And all of this will be based on the logic of an emergency, quote unquote, war economy, which will be extended over time as needed. The Greeks remain spectators in this collapse of the EU. The mobilizations that are taking place in European countries are the first step towards the inevitable outbreak of the people. In this unbearable pressure they are under, Europe is turning more and more into a seething cauldron of rage. As we saw happening in the period of instrumentalization pandemic, however, the Greeks remain tailed and spectators of the development of the old continent, exercising their favorite couch position. Unfortunately, the democratic reflexes of society have become reinforced concrete since the preoccupation with keyholes and the super values of individualism and nepotism prevail. The poison of division that the government injected into society during the 2 years of the pandemic has not yet faded. After all, the Greek Prime Minister has a narrative ready for every lukewarm protest of the citizens. Our schools have no heating and the children will be left to thaw. Yes, others have an interactive board and it's high tech. Fuel is very expensive and the government does not reduce their taxation. Yes, those who have Cayenne are of no use. Are supermarket food prices unapproachable? Yes, but you have a household basket that offers you cheaper spaghetti, number 6, and Carolina rice. Black magic prevails in the food market, with companies reducing the quantity of products to make it appear that they are allegedly keeping prices down. The profit-making cartels impose their rule on fuel and energy, while our country buys electricity at the most expensive wholesale price in the whole of Europe. The parties of obscene profit are left free to riot, and the economic bleeding of the popular strata by the oligarchs proceeds at a rapid pace. The peoples of Europe are rising up against the policies of the elites and are demanding the right to a decent living and their disengagement from warlike interests. But how long will this numb attitude prevail in our country? Should the empty pot and the down switch be secured first? And this is from Sport Time Greece. I've translated this for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments. Thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.